Advanced English Arabic Learning Session 51. Cogent reasons. Their combat days are over. They reminisce about a past that makes them comrades. The water in the well is believed to have curative powers. Water was recommended as a remedy for warts and blindness. The berries were plump and sweet. Chalice is a large cup or goblet. The traditional remedy for inflation in general, and hyperinflation in particular, is gold. Cretin is a stupid person. Shopping became a remedy for personal problems. Is litigation an adequate remedy against harvesters? She had tried acupuncture and hypnosis with very limited and transient success. A wild sequestered spot. Those blows managed to puncture the brain. He most likely died of internal bleeding, or maybe outer bleeding. I don't have the foggiest idea. These puncture wounds scar and deform the fruit. I read that book when I was a lad. She wakes up daily with her mind a total blank. If mixed with alcohol, it can cause severe disorientation and amnesia and loss of consciousness. It shouldn't be a confrontational approach but a polite request that something is not right. Her hand was as cold as ice. We heard the sound of an approaching car. The olden days. It is of paramount importance to take a principled stand against the advocates of communal hatred. Dude, can you bite me? The role of the United States as a paramount power is somewhat comparable to Great Britain in the 19th century. He was a real scientist, questing after truth. It provides a once-in-a-lifetime experience which will alter anyone's view of the importance of animal conservation. A mortal risk. Demand has far outstripped the park's capacity to comfortably accommodate visitors. To arouse interest. The governments that muzzle free speech run a risk of pushing their people to behave destructively or to rebel. It is quite natural that people from different backgrounds may have divergent attitudes towards it. The clearance of blockages. These people don't have clearance. Students, who advocate that study abroad has a lot of disadvantage, have their sound reasons. He took off without air traffic clearance. To obtain customs clearance. This may result in a serious brain drain and our country will inevitably incur a huge loss of talents. The kingpins of the television industry. All the above merits contribute to their self-betterment and self-realization. An air cadet. Many others argue that its drawbacks should not be ignored. His life in peril, danger. It overcomes the geographical barriers and makes the world smaller. Now the heat is on to get as many celebrity autographs as possible. Grab your bow, notch an arrow. After the program was over, books were for sale and I was autographing them. He was handsomely recompensed. The maps below illustrate, with pinpoint accuracy. She breastfed her first daughter until she was aged 3. Your response is classic mansplaining. My daughter is strongly attached to me and we have a great bond. Where the terrorist group has also gained vast swaths of territory. I am overjoyed to announce. Only bona fide members of the company are allowed to use the logo. To make his passing not in vain. The court will assume that they have acted bona fide. The time occupied by the Moon in making one revolution in her orbit. No ifs, ands, or buts means don't make any excuses. He woke from her spell. The time is fast approaching when we should have to make a decision. The rest had at most 4 or 5 years in the sun. So you should focus on 3 or 4 places at most. Until now, you could book at most 4 months in advance. If you made it at home, it would contain 3 or 4 at most. He'll be out for 4 weeks at most. A transient cold spell. We have been approached by a number of companies that are interested in our product. I want to get away from racing for a spell. I'd like to ask his opinion, but I find him difficult to approach, not easy to talk to in a friendly way. He was trying to avoid a head-on clash. Spinning silk into thread. Gnats and mosquitoes. Silvicultural expertise to deliver superb returns to its clientele. He'll set a man to watch you. Scientific research on agroforestry dates back at most 2 generations. I'm assuming you need them for a day or 2 at most. As plant matter dries out, it becomes brittle and highly flammable. Schools will begin to set mock tests. I usually set my alarm clock for 8. A film or novel in the noir genre. These compulsions can be either mental or behavioral in nature. Clutching her face. It is believed that a case of childhood strep throat can elicit a response from the immune system. Her left hand clutched onto a beverage. People who suffer from this debilitating disorder have distressing and obsessive thoughts. He stood clutching a microphone, grasp. They find it stressful to put these intrusive thoughts out of their minds. She made a clutch at his body while riding a hog. It is no exaggeration to say that the territorial imperative has been the main impulse. He had fallen into Amanda's clutches. Fear of dirt and contamination are very common obsessive thoughts. Let out the clutch, then let in the clutch. Persistent thoughts are centered on doubts, such as whether or not a door is locked or a stove is turned off. He tends to stoop when he walks. He wouldn't stoop to thieving. Holding on to objects that would normally be discarded, such as newspapers and empty containers. We saw an eagle stooping on its prey, swooping. OCD sufferers tend to be so secretive about their symptoms. Audacity must be on sale this year. Early diagnosis and proper medication can lessen many of the symptoms. Serotonin reuptake inhibitors are prescribed to increase the brain's concentration of serotonin. It is pretty ridiculous. The Zulu people are known around the world for their elaborate glass beadwork. Grizzly bear. All the vestments in which they used to apparel their deities. A priest in green vestments came and preached a long sermon. They wear not only in their traditional costumes but as part of their everyday apparel. They were dressed in bright apparel. The Europeans facilitated and monopolized the glass bead market. He had been deposed by a military coup. Kings were known to wear beaded regalia. The enchanted key. Personal adornment items include jewelry, skirts besides clothing and accessories. The Vice City. A triangle with the apex pointing downward signifies an unmarried man. Only half of the spacecraft's instruments are still in working order. The train has been restored to full working order. The Patent Office says that everything is in good working order. Few factories are in working order. Bottom feeder. People with trichromatic vision have all 3 cones in working order. When one of the 3 cones does not function properly, dichromatic vision occurs. To leave them high and dry. The reason that color vision deficiency is predominant in males. The same issues are prevalent in other areas of our lives too. The key attribute, the only one that really matters, is distinctiveness. And here is the kicker. I got some sus for you, suspects. A broker whose honesty he had no reason to suspect. The police have arrested a suspect. Scientists attribute this change to better living standards, particularly in regard to diet. He's sussed it out, to figure something out. This may have served the purpose of camouflage, making the animal more inconspicuous. I reckon I've got him sussed. A catastrophic event can overwhelm the brain, causing it to utilize only those receptors needed to perform vital tasks. His lack of business sus. That is sassy. My attention next goes to my back as I shiver in the cold air. Just outside each vertebra, the dorsal and ventral roots unite to form a spinal nerve. The horses were either biters or kickers. Fish oil supplements are derived from a variety of sources, including whale blubber and seal blubber. The name Jack is used to typify an ordinary man. The blood vessels in the penguin's skin dilate when the body begins to overheat. A lumberjack. It can be found in the frozen foods aisle of any supermarket. Blackjack, a pirate's black ensign. The compilation of a planetary inventory began more than 250 years ago. Your father rackjacked me. I didn't envisage this would be a problem, but I was wrong. People are getting jack of strikes. My conscience is so laden with guilt. This gene is small enough to be quickly and easily deciphered. Flapjack, an old term for pancakes. Although I think it's foolish and her boyfriend is a jerk for suggesting it. An open sewer of vice and crime. To monitor inventory and replenish when stock levels approach minimum requirements. Joisted and boarded floors. As if every family lived in a miniature castle. Boarded windows. Outlandish, brightly colored clothes. He did not elaborate on concerns regarding the immigration office. 3 wise, outlandish kings. The end. Coming next. Session 52.